Welcome to the 700 Club. The heat wave is still gripping much of the United States, with temperatures hitting close to 100 degrees in many places.
Well, in the Midwest, the heat has given way to other extreme weather, including severe storms and possible flash floods. Jenna Browder brings us the story from Washington.
It's not just the heat, but the humidity here in Washington that's making it so hot. Cooler temperatures are expected with extreme weather, just like they've seen in the Midwest. The extreme heat wave sent emergency crews rushing to this Virginia swim meet. At least 20 people were sickened by heat exhaustion. In Boston, the city opened cooling stations this weekend and made pools free of charge. And at Washington Dulles Airport, monitors warned outside crews to stay hydrated. United providing several hydration carts for workers.
We don't want to see people having heat strokes. We don't want to see people, pulled off the ramp.
In all of those places, records were broken, with heat indices reaching into the triple digits. 6 deaths have been linked to the heat. In the Midwest, the heat has given way to heavy rain and wind, leaving 500,000 customers without power in Wisconsin and Michigan. The National Weather Service warning flash flooding might be possible in some areas.
Had that hit the house, it would have taken the bedroom off.
And heavy rains are also coming to the East Coast. Forecasters are warning of possible flash flooding from the Appalachians to the Northeast, with up to an inch of rain per hour in some places. There's also a threat of damaging winds and hail.
So from New York to Philadelphia, all the way down into the Tennessee Valley, we expect to see a chance of flooding and also storms that will pack a punch from New York all the way down into the Virginia region. We are talking flash flooding, of course, lightning, and also wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour. Temperatures tonight mostly in the 60s across the region with those showers and storms. And then Tuesday, a transitional day for most. Temperatures dropping 5 to 10 degrees below normal.
Washington is expected to cool down Tuesday when the storms arrive here. But just like in the Midwest, what was a heat issue could become a water issue. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Well, we go from severe weather to rumors of war. Tensions have escalated again in the Persian Gulf after Iranian special forces seized a British-owned tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That's right, Gordon. British Prime Minister Theresa May convened an emergency security session today to discuss Iran's action and how to deal with the Islamic Nation. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, Iran's latest provocation increases a growing conflict with Western powers.
Iran released new footage of the tanker Stena Impero, now flying an Iranian flag. On Friday, Iranian Revolutionary Guard commandos seized the ship in the Strait of Hormuz. This is a radio intercept between the British warship Montrose trying to reach the scene and Iranian naval forces.
If after your course 2360 degrees immediately, over.
Seffer Navy patrol boat, this is British warship Foxtrot 236. You must not impair, impede, obstruct or hamper the passage of the MV Stena Imperio.
Well, let's be clear, this was a hostile and aggressive act. The vessel was in Omani waters.
The UK's Defence Secretary said keeping the Strait of Hormuz open to shipping is vital to the world's economy. 1/5 of all global crude oil exports pass through the narrow waterway. Iran claims they seized the Stena Imperio because Britain impounded an Iranian tanker off the coast of Gibraltar. Britain says those actions were legal since the tanker was on its way to Syria in violation of international sanctions. Britain promised a robust response, but is hoping for a diplomatic solution.
We're looking for ways to de-escalate the situation, but we're also very clear that we will do what it takes to ensure the safety and security of British and international shipping.
The UK says it has a different approach than the U.S. maximum pressure strategy on Iran. Even though the Trump administration has imposed sanctions, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the U.S. is open to negotiations with Iran.
But to date, we have seen no indications that the Iranians are prepared to fundamentally change the direction of their nation. These are not the actions of a country that looks like it's headed in the right direction, but we hope, as President Trump has said, that they will sit down and discuss each of these items with us.
While Israel has been quiet about the maritime crisis in the Gulf, it's watching it closely and alert to any provocations by Iran proxies like Hezbollah on its northern border. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. Iran said today it has arrested 17 spies it claims were recruited by the CIA to spy on the country's sensitive nuclear and military sites, adding that some of them have already been sentenced to death. The arrest took place over the last several months. Iran also said none of the 17 succeeded in their sabotage missions. President Trump kept up his attack on progressive Democratic freshman House representatives known as the Squad Sunday, tweeting, "I don't believe the 4 congresswomen are capable of loving our country. They should apologize to America and Israel for the horrible, hateful things they've said. They are destroying the Democrat Party, but are weak and insecure people who can never destroy our great nation." Trump has come under fire for this recent line of criticism, with Democrats calling him racist. The internet has revolutionized the way we communicate, the way we get our news, how we shop, and now it could change the way we get our health care as well. And as Lori Johnson reports, not surprisingly, young people are leading the way.
Research shows fewer millennials and Gen Xers are choosing primary care physicians in traditional doctor's offices and are instead opting for easier solutions to meet their medical needs.
Millennials, those ages 22 to 38, are set to become the largest living generation in the U.S. this year. Generation Z comprises the youngest adults, ages 18 to 21. Raised on the internet, these two consumer groups are used to getting food, clothes, whatever they want, super fast with just the touch of a finger without leaving their homes. So it may come as no surprise that millennials are nearly 3 times as likely to be dissatisfied with traditional in-person health care than their baby boomer grandparents, those age 55 and above. 16% of millennials cited issues with appointment times, compared to just 6% of boomers. Location is an even bigger problem. Nearly 1/4 of millennials don't like traveling to the doctor, compared to just 4% of boomers. As to the effectiveness of in-person medical care, 32% of Gen Zers felt dissatisfied, 12% of millennials, and just 4% of boomers. This is valuable information for healthcare providers trying to reach consumers looking for a different experience.
The key players in the industry are seeing the trend.
Enter Doctor on Demand, one of a growing number of telemedicine companies for people who want to visit with the doctor without the hassle of driving, parking, and sitting in a waiting room.
That population is saying, I want to see my doctor right away, on demand, and I want to do that from the comfort of my home.
Telemedicine does have its drawbacks.
Telemedicine relies on technology, which isn't always reliable. Plus, when doctors interact with patients on a screen, they can miss nonverbal cues they'd otherwise pick up touching them here in the exam room.
More invasive appointments, like a routine physical, require in-person treatment. However, many young people don't get regular physicals. Only about half of Gen Zers even have a primary care physician, compared to roughly 2/3 of millennials and 85% of baby boomers.
I like the idea of one person to tell whatever's wrong, and then from there we go from there.
The younger folks without a PCP who don't use telemedicine still have another option: urgent care facilities, which are booming in popularity largely because of their convenience. The number of visits increased 125% in the last decade. However, people with chronic or complicated medical conditions could be at a disadvantage because urgent care doctors often don't have access to the patient's medical records and aren't aware of their complete health history. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Thanks, Lori. And Gordon, I was reading earlier this morning that the telemedicine market is expected to reach $64 billion within the next 5 to 6 years.
Well, I think this is a good development. When my father had a stroke, I got a firsthand experience with telepresence. And that was a top neurologist talking to me on a screen. And he had access to all the tests and all the data that was coming from my father's body as he was lying on the gurney. He had it all. And he was making a diagnosis right there based on the tests that he was seeing. The good news was that that allowed immediate treatment. You didn't have to go find the top neurologist. He was waiting, and that was part of the arrangement with the Stroke Center, is let's have top neurologists pretty much around the clock who we can bring into this emergency room and have a telepresence of someone who really knows what they're doing and knows how to treat stroke. Imagine that for every single kind of illness, and then start imagining wearable devices that will keep track of your body's vital signs. Internet has disrupted so many industries, from shopping to book delivery to video to television. All of these things are being disrupted. Medicine is being disrupted too. And from my point of view, that's really good, because what that means is there's going to be lower prices for delivery of medical opinions, diagnosis, treatment, and that will be good for everyone.